Okay.
Go check it.
Okay. Well, everyone, welcome to tonight's reality. We won't be having worship music tonight. It's been some crazy weather, and there's been power outages rolling around. So tonight, because of some obstacles, we're going to have a live teaching with you, but we won't have worship. And I'm sorry, I apologize for that. I know some of y'all, and I'm one of those that love the worship time. And let me say that tonight, well, first of all, I want to say I want to thank you for joining in, being a part of this tonight, and being a part of our study and our teaching. And we won't get to have Zoom tonight either. We didn't know whether we would be able to put that together, and so we just won't be able to have it tonight as well. But normally we have Zoom after the teaching, and we get a chance to fellowship. We'll miss that this week. Hopefully we'll get back to it next week. We also want to thank you for all of you who have been supporting us financially. We are trying to save money to purchase some electronic equipment that will make this much better and be able to share this with more people. So we're grateful for your support. And I know I want to say I'm grateful for those who pray for this, who pray for me. I really want and pursue God's heart as to what I share with you on Wednesday nights, and there are times when I am just experiencing the heavens as brass and don't really get a sense of God's heart and mind for the lesson. And so I just want you to know I'm so grateful when you pray for me and pray for us, because this is really a team effort. This isn't just something that Scott Latham puts together, but there's a lot of people behind the scene that make this happen, and it's a team that does this. And thank you for praying for us. Now, listen, today is Ash Wednesday, and so typically on Ash Wednesday I start a Lenten series, a Lenten study. We'll take a break from 1 Samuel and dive into something that prepares us and gets us ready for Easter. Now, I've already gotten in trouble. Todd got on to me, and Jan got on to me because they wanted to continue 1 Samuel. And I'm really thankful that that's being such a positive and rich experience for people. That blesses me that God is using that teaching. So I'm assuming that there are others of you who wish that we would continue 1 Samuel, but I don't want to blame it on God, but I just felt a nudge or a pulling to spend some time in a focus that would prepare us for Easter. So that's what we're going to do. Tonight is our first installment, and then we'll work at more and more as we work in the weeks that are coming towards Easter. So tonight, if you will, we're going to look at some scripture that'll sort of be our launching pad, and then we'll move into sort of a focus of what we're going to be looking at for this Lenten season. Now, if you will you join me in Job, the book of Job, chapter 7. And I want you to look with me at verse 17 and 18. So here's the first one, Job, or Job, whichever way you want to say it, chapter 7, verses 17 and 18. And I'll be reading from the NIV. And my version says this: "What is mankind that you make so much of them?" Now, this is Job speaking to God. "That you give them so much attention, that you examine them every morning and you test them every moment." Now, the words that I want you to capture is particularly the word examine. You examine them every morning and you test them every moment. Now, if you'll move to Psalm 26. And when you find Psalm 26, it's the first 3 verses, Psalm 26, and again, we're looking at the word examine. Okay, Psalm 26, 1 through 3. Vindicate me, Lord, for I have led a blameless life. I have trusted in the Lord and have not faltered. Test me, Lord, and try me. Examine my heart and my mind, for I have always been mindful of your unfailing love, and I have lived in reliance on your faithfulness. And now, beloved, one more place, just to gather in one more verse. It's Psalm 139, and it's the last 2 verses, verse 23 and 24. Now, the word examine isn't here, but you'll get the idea. That idea is here. You ready? Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. And see if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now, let me say right quickly before we get into the lesson is that the reason God examines us is not because he lacks knowledge and is trying to discover some things. It's really to show us some things. His searching, his examining, his testing is showing us things about ourselves. And that idea is the idea that I want us to sort of gather in for this Lenten season as we spend some time getting ready for Easter. Okay, now a couple of questions. Why do we get annual physical checkups? Or at least why we are encouraged to get some annual physical checkups, right, guys? Okay. And why does the state require us to get our vehicles inspected before they let us have a registration sticker to say that it's okay to be on the road? Why that? And then a third question, why do professors and teachers give examinations or exams or tests? Other than being mean and cruel, why do they? Why do the good teachers, the really good teachers and professors, why do they give tests? Well, these things that I'm asking about are done to examine the true condition of something. In other words, the true condition of your health, or the true condition of your car, or the true condition of your learning. Now, the season of Lent is somewhat the same kind of thing. It is a time when we set aside space for God to examine our discipleship with Jesus so that we know where we are in that process. So, what I'm going to suggest that we do, even though I know, and I'm so glad that y'all want to continue 1 Samuel, what we're going to do for the next few weeks of Lent is we're going to take a look at how our discipleship with Jesus is doing. Now, I'm not going to promise this will be painless. Like any good examination, it's probably going to involve a little pain. But hopefully it will be revealing, like any good examination would be. Now, the first thing we need to do is establish sort of a baseline. In other words, what is discipleship to Jesus? What we need to do is work together from the same definition. If we're working off different definitions, then our strategies of where we go from there will be different. So what we need to do is work together from the same definition. And so tonight, what I'm going to do is try to establish a definition with you, and we are going to work for the next couple of weeks off of that definition. Now, what makes us needing to stop and build this baseline or get this definition in place is that we need, lots of people just don't have clear understanding of what discipleship is. Now, in other words, what makes this necessary, and maybe not for you guys, but for most people, it's how our culture has come to view and define religion and spirituality. Spirituality in our time has been captured by the tourist mindset. You practice spirituality by visiting an attractive building when we have leisure time to do so for a specific event that should have some kind of enjoyment or entertainment for you. For some, this is a weekly trip. For others, there is occasional visits to special services. And then for others, it's special events like retreats or camps or conferences. We follow new speakers who are saying new truths, and we get new experiences. That's how our culture has come to define religion, spirituality, and also how that frames discipleship. As one person said, today's passion in our culture today is for the immediate and the casual. And then let me add this as well. On top of this idea of that there is just this sense of tourism when it comes to religion and spirituality, let me add this, that plus everyone today is in a hurry. Have you noticed that? I mean, we all are looking for shortcuts. We've been trained by 30-second commercials and TV programs that resolve everything in an hour. We don't want the full story. We just want the high points from, we want Reader's Digest, which just covers the high point of the story. Not that I'm knocking Reader's Digest. Please don't hear me saying that. But we don't want the full story. Discipleship is none of this. These kind of things have nothing to do with discipleship. To borrow a phrase from Eugene Peterson, who was a Presbyterian pastor, started a church in the Northeast, and then became professor at Regent College. He has now passed, but I have no idea how many books this man has written. But to borrow a phrase from him, and he captured this phrase from Friedrich Nietzsche, is this: the essential thing in heaven and earth is that there should be a long obedience in the same direction. That there should be a long obedience in the same direction. This is discipleship. A disciple is an apprentice. And most of the time we sort of frame the word disciple as like a learner, and our image of that is some academic setting. But that is, an apprentice is a learner, but it isn't academic. It's learning skills. As Christians, we are to spend our lives apprenticing to our master, Jesus. We learn to follow him by learning to become just like him. Now, this is no tourist lifestyle, if you're getting my implications here. This is a pilgrimage, always, at all times, on the move to be closer to Jesus so that we can become more like Jesus. We don't spend our lives visiting like tourists. We spend our lives following like pilgrims. A long obedience in the same direction. Now, what does that require? What do we need in order to do discipleship to Jesus? In other words, what do we need to do a long obedience in the same direction towards Jesus? Here is what will be our roadmap for this season of Lent. And we're going to be looking for those kind of things. We're going to try to be answering, what is required, what is needed, what is essential. Now, where we're going to go to look for those things is in the book of Psalms. Now, embedded in the Psalms are some pilgrim songs. In Hebrew, they are called, I'm going to try to say it, Richard and Steve, don't judge me here. Shirei Hamaloth is the way you say it. It's in our words, in English, it's the Songs of Ascents. These are Psalms 120 through 134. These 15 psalms were most likely sung by Hebrew pilgrims as they went up to Jerusalem for the worship festivals. You know, Jerusalem was the highest city in Palestine. And so all who traveled there traveled up to Jerusalem. The pilgrimage was a metaphor for a life lived upward towards God. You walked from one level to the next, and then to the next, and to the next, which was also a picture for developing greater closeness with God and growing more mature as a pilgrim of the faith. Pilgrim, because this is not our home. We are passing through. Now, the Jewish people as a whole traveled to Jerusalem 3 times each year. In early spring for the Passover, in early summer for Pentecost, and then the Feast of Tabernacles was in autumn. And on the way, pilgrims on the road would sing these 15 psalms. And some suggest that they sang them sequentially, in order. And what is interesting is that many of the essential aspects of discipleship are incorporated in these songs. They are songs of transition. They are songs of travel. They are songs of pilgrimage, songs of direction and instruction for us getting to where God is leading us, which is no longer now, in the Old Testament, it was a geographical location, but it's no longer a geographical location, but a spiritual formation. We are to be formed into the image of Jesus. So, for the next 7 weeks, we will take a look at some of these songs of ascents. And let me recommend that you consider reading these 15 psalms for Lent. Okay? If you read one per day for the days of the week, Monday through Friday, in other words, you get a break on Saturday and Sunday. If you read one per day for the days of the week, Monday through Friday, and you start tomorrow, you can read these 15 psalms twice before we get to Maundy, Thursday of Holy Week. So it's just a suggestion or a recommendation. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pick apart tonight. We're going to look at, I shouldn't say pick apart. We're going to take a look at Psalm 131. It's one of two of the shortest. Psalm 134 is also 3 verses. Psalm 131 is 3 verses. Charles Spurgeon said that Psalm 131 is one of the shortest to read, but the longest to learn. And I think as we unpack it, you will see that. Let's read it together. Psalm 131 and the 3 verses found there. Now again, this is NIV. My heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me. But I have calmed and quieted myself. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am content. Israel, put your hope in the Lord, both now and forever. Now, as you take a look at this psalm, what does it sound like this psalm is about? And let me ask this question, tagged to that is, what is this psalm about that would be an essential quality of discipleship and an area that we need to allow God to examine us in? Well, right off the bat, you get the word pride. And this psalm begins to talk, it just briefly opens up to us the idea of being humble, of humility, of not being prideful. And let me say, pride is one of the great usurpers. It is one of the things that will get your discipleship to Jesus off track and far from the path that it should be. It's one of those things, pride is one of those things that we don't always notice. We're not always aware of it. And so there is a need, if we are going to become like Jesus, if our discipleship to him, our apprenticeship to him is going to be doing the work that it needs to be doing, there needs to be a growing sense of humility. Now, let me take a moment to define humility. John Bailey, who is one of the old writers, probably 1800s, he wrote this about humility. He says, humility is the obverse side of confidence in God. Now, obverse, it's the word O-B-V-E-R-S-E, obverse. It has to do with what is observable, okay? So here's this person who has confidence in God, but what would be something that would be observable from that? Well, it would be humility. So let me say, humility is the obverse side of confidence in God. Pride is the obverse side of confidence in self. In other words, humility is becoming to see how radically dependent we really are upon God. That's what humility is. It's learning to define myself, to define the world, and define God as God defines them, and giving up and letting go of my definitions. It's learning that the reality of my life is that I already am radically dependent upon God for my life. But there is need for a growing of that dependency in him as well. The first beatitude in Matthew chapter 5, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs shall be the kingdom of God. Now, beloved, what that's talking about, that poor there is abject poverty. Blessed are the poor in spirit. In other words, blessed are those who see, who know how needy they are for God. That's humility. That is humility. Now, lots of people will take humility and sometimes push it too far, where what they cause it to come to mean is that they need to be dish-rag saints or doormat Christians. They don't need to have any kind of spine, and they don't need to stand up for anything. That is never what humility means. Humility means that we are coming and bringing, we're coming to see things as God sees them. We're giving up our view of things. We're giving up our mindset and taking on God's mindset. That's what humility is. Okay, now in the psalm, what you should notice is there's a result of that. There's a result of being humble. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back through the psalm, see if you can catch a little more of its meaning. When I read it, this is from the Message. This is a paraphrase translation. Some people won't put those two words together. Some will say this is a paraphrase Bible or a paraphrase version of the Bible. Some people will say, no, this is a translation. I'll let you decide. But this is from the Message, and it's Psalm 130. Now listen to this. Listen how it's translated here. God, I'm not trying to rule the roost. I don't want to be king of the mountain. I haven't meddled where I have no business or fantasized grandiose plans. I've kept my feet on the ground. I've cultivated a quiet heart. Like a baby content in its mother's arms, my soul is a baby content. Wait, Israel, for God. Wait with hope. Hope now. Hope always. So one of the fruits or one of the consequences of humility is contentment. a childlike trust. The picture there that this psalm is painting is a child that has been weaned, a child that isn't crying for mother's milk, but a child that has found comfort in mama's lap and is leaning and fallen asleep, very content on mom's chest. Now, you'll see this if you're around young mothers who have young children. You'll see this all the time. I actually, one of my earliest memories, one of my classes in my program, learning to be a counselor, was to cultivate and harvest and try to describe some of my earliest memories. And one of my earliest memories is my mom and dad are visiting some friends, and it's getting late, and I'm getting tired. And I'm 4 or 5 years old, and I remember I go find mom. Mom and her friend are in the kitchen. Dad and his friend are in the living room. And I must have brought some toys because we're at their house, and I'm doing something. I've been staying busy, but I'm tired now. And so I go find mom. She's in the kitchen, and I climb up in her lap, and I lay my head against her chest. I'm sitting sideways across her lap, and I have this vivid memory of hearing her voice through her chest. And there was just an incredible sense of safety, an incredible sense of comfort. I was completely content, and I fell asleep. I went to rest. I relaxed in every way, and that is to be that's the picture here in this psalm, and that is to be one of the qualities of humility, which is an essential element of our discipleship to Jesus. Now, what else attends that? What comes along with that? What else is part of being of growing in humbleness and becoming a humble person? Well, he ends with those words. Do you remember how this is the message again? How he ends? Wait, Israel, for God. Wait with hope. Hope now. Hope always. Now, beloved, we're going to spend some time talking about hope during this Lenten season. Hope seems to me to be a very, very important and significant thing that people are needing in these days. And so I'm not going to unpack it tonight, but know that we're going to come back to that word. In other words, what helps build this childlike trust? Not where some kind of dish rag or some kind of doormat, not that kind of thing. And it's not the image of a child who is helpless. It's a child who is eager and willing to trust. That's the childlike trust that's being demonstrated here. When that childlike trust is in place, then there is this calm, there is this quiet, there is this contentment that comes. And so that helps us to hope in God now and forevermore. Well, beloved, that tonight's lesson is short. I'm sorry there isn't more here, but we will be looking at more of these songs of ascent as we work our way through these weeks heading to Easter. I hope tonight has been beneficial to you. What would you be looking for that God might be saying to you through this study tonight? I hope that you take some time to think about that. Let me also add that just some questions here at the end that I want to give to you. One of them is that, is there any place in your life where pride might be getting in the way of your discipleship with Jesus? Is that one of the questions that you need to wrestle with through this lesson tonight?
Yep.
Todd just said, yep. So, how is your long obedience in the same direction doing? Is your obedience characterized by spurts? Is there areas where your obedience needs to become more sustained? Is your lifestyle as a Christian more touristy or more pilgrimy? And are you apprenticing in the same direction as Jesus, or are you scattered and distracted in some parts of your life with Jesus? Do you have resolve for the long haul, or are you good at starting but not so good at finishing? Let me just say those again so that you guys can have them. How are you doing with your long obedience in the same direction? How's that going? And is there any need for you to examine anywhere where pride might be getting in the way of your discipleship with Jesus? Is your obedience characterized by spurts? Good and then not good, good and then not good, good and then not good. Is there areas where obedience needs to become more sustained in your life? Is your lifestyle as a Christian more touristy or more pilgrimy? Are you apprenticing in the same direction as Jesus? Or are you scattered and distracted in some parts of your life with Jesus? I'll tell you, beloved, there's times in my Christian life where I am completely ADHD. I look like a pinball in a pinball machine instead of being focused and moving the same direction. Do you have resolve for the long haul, or are you good at starting but not so good at finishing? Let me read Psalm 139. That was the one that I read right at the very beginning. Let me read those last two verses, and I'm reading it from the Message. This is what it says. Investigate my life, O God, and find out everything about me. Cross-examine and test me. Get a clear picture of what I'm about. See for yourself whether I've done anything wrong, and then guide me on the road to eternal life. Well, beloved, that's going to be our prayer as we walk our way through Lent this season. Again, beloved, thank you for being a part of this tonight. So grateful that you joined in, and I pray that there was something here that God had for you, and that you will take that and go with it. So be blessed, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.